Hello, viewers. Welcome to another episode on the Little Fella Sports Podcast. So, the IPL player auctions for the year 2021 have just concluded. A lot of big bug buys, some really economical buys from other franchises as well. But overall, it's been a very frenzied IPL auction. I'm pretty sure there are quite a few surprises in it as well for us to review it. So, today on this special live, we've got Gurkirat Singh joining us. We're going to be talking about all the teams, the buys that they made. Are there any hits? Are there any misses? And are there any key players who went unsold? So before that, please do like, share, and subscribe to our content. We have a lot of videos planned for the India England series and for IPL 2021. So do subscribe to our channel. So Gurkirat, starting off, what are your initial thoughts on the auction? As I said before, there have been some really big buys. There's been a record bid for Morris. So what are your initial thoughts on the auction?
See, whenever there's a mini auction, you expect the few players that are there, especially which are supposed to be hot properties, to get a lot of money because resources are very few, purse is relatively big, and franchisees have a clear picture as to what they want, so they really go after the players that they want. As we saw in the case of Chris Morris, Kyle Jamieson, and Glenn Maxwell. So that was supposed to happen. So nothing surprising that you don't see in an auction. You will always see some players, getting very huge sums of money, and then some expected buys not being bought, and then some expected buys, coming at a very cheap price because they've come late in the order. So nothing unusual from that point of view, but yes, I think a couple of teams have genuinely messed it up, and a couple of teams have done a very good job. So let's discuss that now.
Sorry, I was on mute. So, as you said, Gurkirat, some teams have really filled in their gaps. They've tried to go in for these hard-hitting impact players, but there are some teams who haven't yet filled their major voids. So, as you said, let's just review the teams and their buys one by one. So, we'll start off with DC. DC, of course, started the auction with getting Steve Smith for a rather cheap price of 2.25. But right towards the end of the auction, they started getting in some really economical buys, like Sam Billings. Umesh Yadav for 1 crore, from my point of view, is a very good steal because he gives you great cover given the fact that Harshal Patel has been traded to Royal Challengers Bangalore. So, as a Delhi Capitals fan, looking at the buys that DC have made and looking at the current squad depth, how do you see this auction faring for them?
Honestly, when I saw that the very first buy was Steve Smith to Delhi, I was incredibly disappointed because you see, you already have a Shikhar Dhawan, you have a Prithvi Shaw, you have a Shreyas Iyer, you have a Ajinkya Rahane. You have these four players who are suitable to bat in the top three. Apart from this, even Marcus Stoinis, prefers to bat in the top three, as you've seen, in his stint with Melbourne Stars in the BBL. And same you can say for Shimron Hetmeyer. He's also a top three player. But because you already have so many top three players, Marcus Stoinis and Shimron Hetmeyer are, being forced, or sort of they're batting at 5 and 6. So you didn't really need another top order player. Apart from that, I'm of the school of thought that, in T20s, opening is not really a specialist position. You can have someone who has the ability to clear the infield, and you are good to go. As KKR did with Sunil Narayan. It's okay if you lose one wicket, so not a huge deal. So that was a bad buy, but I think apart from that, Umesh was a good buy. Vishnu Vinod was a good buy. At base price, provides good cover for Rishabh Pant in case he gets injured and Delhi wants to play other four foreigners, because last season we saw that once Pant got injured, Carey had to come in, and then Hetmeyer went out because of the four foreigner rule. Meriwala, I have heard good things about him. That he had a very good SM80. And there's M Siddharth also, a spinner who was earlier with KKR, who's come to DC. And then there's another player, Reepal Patel, I think, who Ashwin had mentioned. He's been also been bought at base price. So it sort of shows that Ashwin shared his information with the think tank, which has helped. But I think the buy which really made me happy was Sam Billings at 2 CR, because he's a very good middle order batsman, very versatile. His range against pace is very good, and he played in Kotla before. He's also played for Chennai. Can play the spin well. has more than just the sweep shot to play the spin. So really happy with all the buys except for say one of Steve Smith, because he's that kind of a player that you tend to play him in the 11, and I think if they do play him in the 11, they will spoil their balance. But yeah, now that he's been bought, I think it was a case of Delhi trying to raise the price for Smith, but they sort of played into RCB's bluff, and that happened. Apart from that, Tom Curran, I'm not so sure, because you already have a Chris Wokes who's a like for like player. Both of them really don't offer much with the ball at the death, and have value only in the power play. They do have the pace, but they don't really bowl the Yorkers, right? And
Yeah,
Tom Curran, as we saw with Rajasthan, he relied on the slower balls, and in the end, he got dropped. And Rajasthan were playing Karthik Tyagi, who was bowling at the death. So, like somebody's actually asking about Tom Curran. So we are discussing that only. So,
yeah,
I feel they've been bought for as a backup for both Nortje and Rabada, in case they are in the squad to play Pakistan. But I don't think they're nowhere, in the same quality as the two bowlers. So if in case both of them, are selected, then Delhi are going to have a problem in death bowling, because Umesh also we have seen is not great at the death. Ishant also isn't reliable at death, so that is going to be a problem.
yeah. As you pointed out, Gurkirat, for me also, I think Sam Billings was a very good pick by DC at the base price, especially given the fact that a lot of teams had big purses. So my original feeling was Sam Billings would probably end up getting 5 or 6 crores, given the fact that he's a very good player of spin, and many teams need a good player at 4 or 5.
Mhm.
So in that case, I think Sam Billings was a great pick by DC. And Umesh Yadav, from my point of view, he's definitely a good bowler within the power play. So if you can get 3 or 4 overs out of him in the first 8 overs, then he's a very good cover for the likes of Ishant Sharma and Avesh Khan. I think Umesh Yadav was necessary because Harshal Patel was traded. If you had Harshal Patel, you probably had a middle overs bowler. Now he's gone, so you have to replace him.
Harshal Patel was traded, then Tushar Deshpande was released, Mohit Sharma was released. So you needed a third pacer anyway. And I think with Umesh coming in and there is Meriwala, so you again have four pacers. I've not seen much of Meriwala, so I can't comment. But I hope he has some promise to bowl at the death. But inexperienced bowler, you really wouldn't prefer at the death. Delhi would actually want one of KG or not J to be there. Sanchit saying that DC should have gone for McLanagan. They could have. There was also Neil Wagner in the list. So I am surprised why no team went after him, because Wagner, as he has showed in Test cricket, that he has a very good bouncer, and he can actually bowl at pace. So he could have
Yeah.
been a good death bowler.
Yeah. So now, given that we've talked about DC, let's move on to the next team on the list, and that is the Royal Challengers Bangalore. Of course, the highlight of the auction is the bidding war between RCB and CSK for Glenn Maxwell, with RCB ending up purchasing Maxwell for a huge sum of money. And then, apart from that, RCB have made some like for like purchases with the arrival of Dan Christian at the fag end of the auction. And then they went in for some really good uh, Indian stock as well, which has performed really well in the Shahid Mushtaq Ali Trophy. So overall, how do you think RCB have tried to fill in their holes? Because if you look at RCB's previous years, they have had problems with their lower middle order, and their bowling hasn't stepped up from time to time. That we actually think RCB think tank feels Kyle Jamieson coming in will help fill that role as well. So overall, what do you make of RCB's look?
See, last year actually, I thought that RCB covered their bases pretty well. But this year, what I didn't understand was them releasing Morris and retaining Kane Richardson, wherein I personally think that Morris is a better death bowler. Probably they thought of his injury concerns, but as you saw today, Rajasthan bought him for 16. So I think for RCB, death bowling could be a concern. They only have Navdeep Saini, because we have seen Siraj has also not done well whenever he's bowled at the death. Then Kyle Jamieson also, although it's a short sample space, not bold enough, but he also gives runs at a rate of 9.75 in the last 4 overs. So that is a concern. Kane Richardson is not a good death bowler. He's given runs in the IPL whenever he's bowled at the death. And what has happened with RCB is they have too many all rounders. They have a Daniel Sams. they have a Harshal Patel, they have a Glenn Maxwell, they have a Dan Christian. But none of those all rounders actually can do the job of bowling at the death. Daniel Sams, although he bowls at the death for Sydney Thunder in BBL, but we saw last year, how he did for Delhi Capitals. He played 3 games, bowled 12 overs, and gave away 114 runs for no wickets. And that is when he didn't really bowl at the death, because I'm not really confident of his death bowling, especially if he's going to rely on slower ones. Harshal Patel again doesn't have a lot of pace. Dan Christian, you could say the same thing. And on a ground like Chinnaswamy, if they do play at Chinnaswamy, that bowling is going to be under trouble. I think RCB will be very, very well suited if they, whenever they win the toss, they choose to bowl first, because they should actually back their batting to chase down whatever they have than backing their bowling to defend. Azharuddin is a good buy, but again, that could mean I'm not sure where Virat Kohli is going to bat, because I feel how Kohli is gone in the last 2 years. It is good if he opens, because that gives him time to settle in, because how he played in the last IPL, especially against the likes of Maxwell and Spin, wasn't great to see. His strike rate last IPL was 121, which was his lowest for the last 7 8 years. So that is there, but they've addressed the lower middle order thing, and they've strengthened the batting. But I am a little concerned for their bowling. We may see at some point of time Yuzvendra Chahal bowling in the death over other bowlers, because that is how they've constructed the squad, and I'm genuinely worried as to how Kyle Jamieson is going to bowl at the death. Uh, Also, with Navdeep Saini as well, he had a very good first half in the IPL where he bowled well at the death, but he's also not experienced a lot, so they don't have a real go-to bowler for the death overs, or when there's a rampage. So that is definitely a concern.
Yeah, Gurkirat. As you pointed out, they haven't gone for the pedigree death bowlers that were available in the auction. They've gone in for Jameson purely because of his returns for New Zealand in the international T20s and in the Super Smash. But apart from that, as you pointed out, their actual problem, which is death bowling, hasn't yet been sorted out. They've got a good crop of Indian bowlers and they are banking on it, so that is good to see. Arrival of Maxwell gives another option for Virat Kohli to use. I think Maxwell can definitely bowl a couple of overs, maybe in the T20 format, but not more. So we do have a question from our viewers. Chandrakant is asking if RCB made a big blunder by releasing Morris. If I'm not wrong, in the bidding war, Hessen and Co went up to 9.75 for Morris, and the price at which they got Morris in the previous auction was 10 crores. So they still wanted Morris, but they went up to the last legitimate bid before their actual price. So
So
do you think there was a mistake there?
see, in hindsight, you can say that, but it's what happened with RCB and Morris, sort of vindicates KKR's decision to retain Pat Cummings at 15.5 CR. So it's a difficult call. I would say keeping Kane Richardson and releasing Morris is a bigger concern than just releasing Morris. Probably they retained him because they thought his injury concerns are there. They could buy him at a lower price, but I genuinely felt that they should have released a Richardson as well, because they had released Udana too. So it's a difficult call. It's a difficult call, especially because, like I said, hindsight makes it a little better. And I also feel that they went too high for Maxwell, because paying 14.5 cr for him, for someone who's consistently not had a good IPL. He might have a good IPL, for all but you have to look at as to what is more important for you. I have always felt that regardless of which format you are playing, bowling depth is much much more important than batting depth. And they've gone the other way this time. They've added a lot more to the batting depth and not so much to the bowling. uh, there could be some stage in the IPL where RCB might have to play both Zampa and Chahal to sort of get wickets in the middle order, so that death overs don't become that big of an issue. I definitely see Zampa playing somewhere down the line, because EBD and Maxwell will play now. So the four foreigners could be Jamieson, Zampa, AB, and Maxwell in the first 11. At least that is what I would go for.
Yeah, as you pointed out, given that Jamieson can also swing the bat a little bit, I think him at 7 or 8 is definitely useful for RCB. And playing Zampa as a leg spinner is really good because you have a lot of variety. If you play Washington Sundar, Maxwell, Zampa, and Chahal, you really have some depth in your spin department as well.
because
Yeah,
they have to work towards making the death overs irrelevant. They've
yeah,
got to get they've got to get opposition 5 or 6 down by the time they're at the 16th over mark.
sure. Just one more question. We have our good friend Anirudh who's joining us on the stream. So he's asking if the exit of Dubey, Morrison, Ali for the arrival of Jamison, Maxwell, and Herschel. Is this really an upgrade for RCB?
Not in terms of bowling, not in terms of bowling. Maybe in terms of batting, but I don't see it in terms of bowling in any way. I think Herschel is still a better bowler than maybe Dubey.
Yeah,
Both are similar bats. Depends on how he's being utilized. Maxwell is a hit and go. Moeen Ali also wasn't used well. I think he only played one game or two games for RCB last season, so he wasn't used well. So not a fair comparison in a way, but Morris is definitely a better buy than Jamieson because he's proven he's shown what he can do. Jamieson, like I said, still early days, too much pressure because so somebody like Jamieson to handle that pressure of being the spearhead to bowl at the death, get wickets when needed, could be a difficult job.
yeah. As you pointed out, Morris's pedigree, at least at the IPL level, is proven. He's done it for different franchises as well. So that also speaks about the fact that he's actually worked in different conditions across India. So now that we've talked about RCB, let's move on to the other big spenders of the day, Kings 11 Punjab. Two major imports of real value, one being Jai Richardson, the other being Riley Meredith, both going for a big sum of money. And Riley Meredith, of course, has created a record by being the highest earner for an uncapped. For a foreign uncapped, he is the highest earner now. So they've filled it. They've actually released a lot of their players who are just warming the bench for almost the entire season. So they've taken out the deadwood. They've brought in fresh imports. People who have actually not played a lot in India. So how do you think Kings and Punjab's auction strategy went, and how do you see their squad shaping up?
I think excellent buys in Jai, Meredith, and Fabian Allen. Fabian Allen is probably the steal of this auction at 75 lakhs because he gives them a couple of overs, can bat seven and can bat big. So, an excellent buy. I thought that they could have retained Krishnapa Gautam because they didn't particularly use him well in the previous IPL, but what's done is done. I think with David Malan coming in, and if he's playing in the 11, uh, there should be no reason for somebody like a KL Rahul to bat conservatively now because you have
Yeah,
somebody who can anchor the innings and because if KL Rahul is also starting slow because David Malan usually starts slow in the first 10 deliveries, then it's going to be an issue for Kings 11 because you're going to stare down at wickets not being utilized because you have David Malan, you have Nicholas Puran, you have Deepak Hooda, you have a Sarfaraz you have a Sarfaraz Khan, and you have a Mandeep Singh, and there's one other player that they've bought, Shah Rukh Khan also. So now even then, if you sort of play conservatively, then the blame must fall on the captain and the think tank as to how they're strategizing. But with David Milan in, at 1.5 CR, which is a very good amount, considering the hike that was there. I think we should see the KL Rahul of old in 28, which we saw in 2018. And it would be a great thing if he bats actually like that because it will also give India a lot of confidence considering the World T20 is this year. But yes, excellent buys overall. If you look at their pace department, apart from say Mohammad Shami, Ishan Porel, and Arshdeep Singh, they now have a Jai Richardson. They also have Chris Jordan. They have Meredith. So they have good six spacers, and then they also have someone like a Ravi Bishnoi. They have Murugan Ashwin, if I'm not wrong, as well. So good bowling resources overall, and Fabian Allen coming in will also give them another option. So there is no reason for KXIP to not do well this season. They have most bases covered. I think they should actually, make the last four. If they don't make the squad with this last four, then I don't know what else they can do. They will have to probably, have their execution extremely going wrong for them not to qualify in the playoffs.
Yeah, as you pointed out, definitely
I
Kings
think,
and Punjab have
as
worked. Yeah,
Anirudh has just asked us about Morris. I think they tried to go for Morris, but I think this is a much more stable sort of a setup for them, because had Morris got injured, then it would have really made things difficult for KXIT, rather Punjab Kings, especially considering their upcoming season. I think their management has decided not to sort of spend the entire salary cap, because they didn't do it last season also. So there is definitely some unsaid budget constraint from the Punjab Kings management.
yeah. We have another question on the same lines from Shreyas, and he's asking if Jai is experienced enough to carry the death bowling for Kings Learn, the Punjab Kings.
Short on experience for sure, but definitely has the skill set, has the pace, can bowl the good bouncer, can bowl into the death, can also bowl the Yorker, and if he's paired with someone like Chris Jordan, so there's definitely the skill set. Let's not forget that even Arshdeep Singh did very well last season. So they've definitely added on the options, and I think this is the best they could have done. So can't really complain in terms of the picks that the management has gone for. They tried going for Morris, but he was just going over their budget. I think they also went till 15.5 for him, but can't really complain. I think they've gone for the next best available option that was there, and I think they've done a good job.
Yeah. So with that, moving on to Rajasthan Royals. So Rajasthan Royals again big spenders this time around. They've got Morris for a very historic bid. He's now the highest played player at an IPL auction, surpassing the 16 crores the then Delhi Daredevils paid for Yuvraj Singh. And along with Chris Morris, they've gotten some valuable intakes in the form of Liam Livingston, who I think will be used as a backup for Josh Butler, and is kind of a like for like backup because Livingston has played some really good knocks in the BBL up top. And with the arrival of someone like Chris Morris, what happens is that their second overseas spot, which was usually between Steve Smith or maybe a David Miller, that is fixed now. They can easily play Morris at 8 and have Archer at 9. And it also allows them to not play more than two Indian players in the middle order, which was also a concern for them. So, Gurkirat, looking at how RR have gone about the auction, do you think all their strategies have worked to their expectations?
I think whatever I have seen so far from RR after the last IPL has been done. I've loved it. They let go of Smith. They realized that he was not worth 11 CR. They have made Sanju Samson the captain, who's very Owen Morgan in his ways. You if you saw how Kerala played in the SM80, they went for all they went all out. There was no concept of anchoring an innings. And just like England don't think that there's a need for an anchor uh, in their setup. Probably, David Manan also has actually picked it up. So they don't have an anchor, so as to say, in their 11 or in their squad. I think they're very well suited to. How I would like them to set up their 11 is you have Manan Vora opening along with Ben Stokes. The reason I'm not having Josh Butler in the opening is because he has the skill set to do well in the middle order as well, which Ben Stokes didn't do for them. So you have Vora and Stokes opening. You have Sanju Samson coming in at 3. Then you have Josh Butler, uh, Shivam Dubey, Rahul Tewatia. There those four players over there, and then you can sort of rotate them depending upon who's bowling. I anyway don't think that there's a need for rigidity in the batting lineup. You actually need to see the situation and then send in your middle order batsman. So that sort of makes up your middle order. Then you also have Mahipal Lomror, who could be a good backup. In case you want to sort of drop someone, or if someone's out of form. Then you have Jofra and Chris Morris, who are able batsmen who can hit it big. Shreyas Gopal has done decently as well. If you see, he can also bat a little bit, and I think he did that in the SMAT and a couple of games in the domestic season this year. Apart from that, they have Karthik Tyagi. So I really like how their pace bowling has been set up. There's Chris Morris, there's Jofra Archer, and there is Karthik Tyagi. So they have three genuine quicks who can bowl at all stages of the game. Because Karthik Tyagi actually did well while bowling at the death for Rajasthan Royals. They would hope that Shreyas Gopal does a lot more with the ball, because I thought that he was not great. He was not great in the last IPL. Sometimes he was too short, while going for the googly, and he didn't really flight the ball enough. So they also have Mayank Markande in the backup. And let's not forget, there is David Miller and Liam Livingstone as well. So if Ben Stokes is not doing well, they could probably bring in a David Miller and then open with a Joss Butler, or even send Samson for opening. Because I'm not very keen on Yashasvi Jaiswal starting straight away for Rajasthan Royals, because I watched the SMAT, I watched the last IPL. He's still in his early days. He needs to develop. Struggles a little bit with the bounce and pace, which any young Indian batsman would do, and he has time on his hands. So I don't think that RR really need to push him into the 11. And I genuinely hope that RR don't make the same mistake again by starting with Jaydev Unadkat. You know, because they whenever they play him, they also don't bowl him in the power play enough. They invariably somehow find a way to bowl him at the death, which is not his area of expertise. So I genuinely hope they're not starting up with him. And I think that they have a very good squad. If all goes well, if they play in the sort of brand that they're planning to, like replicating England, they could actually go all the way. Chandrakant is asking, RR missed an experienced winner like Bhajji or Chawla, Gopal. Yes, Gopal was struggling, but I think it's time, if he struggles again, they need to sort of back Markande. Bhajji or Chawla, I'm not sure, because Chawla, even though had one good game with started well with CSK, but then he got hit for plenty of runs. So not sure. Bhajji again. I don't think he's going to get a lot of games for KKR also. More than the experience, I think they're not fit also, and they've been out of the game for quite long. But Harbhajan has not played a game in 2 years now. He last played in 2019 IPL. So and even in 2019 IPL, he did not play all games for Chennai at Chepauk. So not sure for Harbhajan, definitely. Chawla also, I think Chennai overbid a lot for him in the last season. He was definitely not worth 6 CR. Probably could have bought him at the base, because they eventually they didn't pick him. They dropped him. So no, I think they've done well. Probably could have gone for some other spinner, maybe an overseas spinner in Adil Rashid if they wanted. But no, not a Bhaji or Chawla.
Yeah, as you pointed out, Gurkirat, definitely the top four flexibility that Rajasthan Royals has, I think very few teams can match that. The top four can play anywhere. They can open, they can come in at three, or they can come down the order. And yes, Shreyas Gopal and Mayank Markande should be enough. They're very good spinners, at least proven at the IPL level. And Shreyas Gopal has done it for more than one season at Rajasthan Royals. Just that last season was a bit off for him. But definitely in Indian conditions, you back a spinner like Shreyas Gopal to deliver.
Apart from that, you will have overs from Ben Stokes, Tewatia, and Rian Parag, and Shivam Dube too. So they actually have eight bowling options if you look at it, and
Yeah.
they really don't need all their bowlers to bowl for. They can actually get away with not bowling Jofra at all in the power play if they want, if they're smart about it.
Yeah. So as you pointed out, the recruits that Rajasthan Royals have gone for, it's not only strengthened their batting, but it's also given them a slight edge with their bowling. So now with more options, I think Sanju Samson can easily rotate his bowlers and make sure that he's saving Jofra and maybe even Morris for the crucial overs at the back end. So now that we're done with Rajasthan Royals, let's move on to the Sunrisers Hyderabad. Sunrisers Hyderabad came into this auction with very few slots left, and their purse was also very small. But with that small purse, they've actually made some interesting buys. They've picked up Jadhav for base, but they've also gone in for Mujibur Rahman. And apart from that, they've made some Indian buys as well. So, Gurkirat, how do you see SRH filling up their gaps, assuming the major issues that SRH had was in the lower middle order and maybe a backup spinner for Rashid Khan? Do you think that has been addressed?
I don't think that they really needed a backup spinner for Rashid Khan, because he played all games for them. But okay, if you wanted to, it's fine, because they didn't play Nabi also in the entire last season. I think what they should have actually gone for an express pacer, because with Bhuvneshwar Kumar, because that is something that they've not had. When Mitchell Marsh also went out last season, I had tweeted and said that a Mark Wood could be a good replacement, because they have a one-dimensional pace attack. If you leave out T Natarajan, everyone bowls in between around 125 to 135. No one's express as such. Jason Holder doesn't bowl at 140s. Bhuvneshwar Kumar, you don't know coming back from injury how he'll do. And even if he's there, the couple of games that he played for SRH, he was not bowling at 140s, but he's still a smart bowler, to sort of know what to bowl to which bowler and still get away. So T Natarajan was actually a revelation, but you still need one express pacer, and they don't have any. So a little disappointed on that front that they didn't cover this aspect. Mujib, yes, a good buy, but again, I don't see him getting a game. I don't see uh, even Nabi getting a game unless Rashid is injured. SRH are actually a very peculiar side, because you will not see any other team that will have three overseas batsmen in their top four.
Yeah,
As long as that is happening, they will find it very difficult to play a second overseas bowler, right, or a all rounder to sort of have that balance. They eventually ended up dropping Bairstow, which was going to happen. I thought they will drop Ken Williamson. So somebody will go out. Maybe a Jason Holder will come in, but Jason Holder also isn't proven at the death. He did okay in the last IPL, but if you see his history, he's not really a great death bowler. So probably could have done with when one good express pacer. Jadhav, I understand, they've bought because they figured out Manish Pandey and Vijay Shankar are not really working as finishers. And, whenever Manish Pandey is batted below three, he's not given great returns. You saw that in last season also. So
yeah,
they sort of feel that maybe Williamson bats four, Manish Pandey bats three, Manish Pandey bats three. Then at number five you can have a Jadhav or a Priyam Garg, and at number six you have an Abdul Samad, or maybe at number seven. Could be that way, but I thought that they could have been a little better. I don't understand why they've bought Suchit, because they already have a Shabaz Nadeem, and it's hard to say. I think even they also have Abhishek Sharma. They have Abdul Samad who can spin the ball. I think Abhishek Sharma could be a good player who they can open with, because he's done that for Punjab in the SMAT, and he's a decent batsman. So he's being wasted down the order. He's someone they can easily open with him and give him the license to go hell for leather. Even if he gets dismissed, there's hardly any loss. So they can do that, which would give Warner some time, because we saw in the previous IPL that Warner wasn't himself. He scored the runs, but the pace was not the same. So probably they can do that. Have Abhishek Sharma open with David Warner, then have Manish Pandey at three, Kane Williamson four, and Abdul Samad at seven, and then between five and six you decide whether you want a Priyam Garg, or you can have a Priyam Garg and Kedar Jadhav, and then, or you can have a Vijay Shankar also if you want to add a bowling option. So also Kedar Jadhav also can sort of roll his arm over. So didn't really understand the logic behind getting a Jay Suchit. Probably he's a backup for Shabaz Nadeem, because Shabaz Nadeem also didn't play a lot of games for them. And if Bhuvneshwar Kumar is fit, very difficult for both of them to get a game.
yeah. So we just have one question from the SRH point of view, and I'd like to pick a couple of points from what you said. You did mention that their lower middle order is definitely under-equipped, and that's probably the one place that SRH should have looked at filling up. Anirudh also has the same question. Should they have gotten an experienced finisher and an out-and-out fast bowler?
Fast bowler, I mentioned that they should have got one, and I completely agree with Anirudh that they've punched above their weight last season. They did that in 2019 as well. I think in 2019 they were extremely lucky to make it to the playoffs because they were the first team to make it to the playoffs with just 6 wins. So somewhere SRH has been lucky as well. They remain the one of the franchises who've qualified for 5 seasons in a row, along with MI and CSK. From 2016 they've always qualified, but last 2 seasons they've definitely punched above their weight. I think in more than punching above their weight, they were also very lucky with how things didn't go according to the plans for other teams, because even KKR had 14 points. So
Yeah,
definitely they could have gone for a fast bowler. As far as an experienced finisher is concerned, I think they didn't really use Nabi, and they think Jason Holder can do the job. Uh, as a batsman, both of them are fine, even though Nabi didn't have a great BBL. But who else they could have gone for as an experienced finisher? Maybe they could have sort of gone for a Najibullah Zadran from Afghanistan. I thought that they would go for Shakib also, but they didn't even bid for him, and KKR took him, which I thought was a steal. So I think they sort of back Samar to do the job, and he's definitely shown the skill set. So I think they this season they will back him, and they will back Abhishek Sharma also to do the job somewhere, either at the top or at number 6, 7. And I think Jadav doesn't get a lot of credit because of his last season, but he can actually do the job of being a finisher.
yeah. I think there is definitely a mindset behind getting Jadhav for that base price, and as you pointed out, he's still at the end of the day is an experienced finisher. One season cannot define a player's true potential, and we've actually seen Jadhav do it for India at the peak of his powers.
Yeah,
So that is a
he
yeah.
I think he averages around 40 and more, strikes at more than 100 in the ODIs that he has played for India. I think around 102, 103. So he can definitely do it. Just that last season was a huge anomaly for him.
True, true, definitely. So with that, we've done with for SRH. Let's move on to CSK. CSK had a very poor season compared to the standards that CSK have set. Last season was a real, I would say, a slap in the face with respect to the reality that CSK have. The honeymoon period of the previous 2 seasons post the comeback was done, and now we were hit with that. We were hit with the hard reality that our squad is actually aged, and we do not have a lot of free flowing players. So we've gone ahead and got in Moin Ali and Krishnappa Gautam. Apart from that, we've made some interesting SMAT buys like Hari Nishant and Harishankar Reddy. So in that sense, how do you rate CSK's buys in this auction? Do you think they filled in the gaps?
I think Moin Ali and the buy of Krishnappa Gautam were right up Dhoni's alley. I think Dhoni wanted somebody, a couple of players who could do both, bat and as well as bowl, because they realized that they lacked power hitters down the order, and they can't trust Ravindra Jadeja's bowling anymore. So they do have, yeah, just a question has come in. So okay, I'll address that. So
Yeah,
with
sure.
Moini and Krishnappa Gautam, they have added that firepower, but Rajesh rightly is mentioning that with Raina, Raidu, and Dhoni, it could be an issue if all three of them are playing. The lower middle order could be left with a lot to do. Apart from that, I didn't really understand why they got Robin Uthappa for 3 CR, and why did they go for Cheteshwar Pujara. I have absolutely no clue why they went for Cheteshwar Pujara. I don't see both Robin and this guy and Pujara starting for CSK. I think they should open with a Raidu, because I don't think he should be batting in the middle order anymore. He's not at the best of his powers. They probably, I think, can do without Faf now in the four bowlers, in the four foreigners, because if they play Moin Ali, if they play Sam Curran, and if they play Lungi Ngidi, and say one of Satner, Tahir, or Bravo, they can actually field an 11 where all of them can bat. Because we have
Yeah.
seen Shad Thakur is also a good, can actually bat. Deepak Chahar can swing the bat as well. I think what CSK really need to do this time is be a little proactive in promoting players up the order, like how they did with in the first game where they sent Jadeja, where Jadeja came ahead of Dhoni and Sam Curran came ahead of Dhoni. They can do something similar by promoting a Shardul Thakur, and in this case, somewhere promoting a Moin Ali or Sam Curran. I would actually like Moin Ali to open the batting. Okay, because you just give him the license to go after the spinners, and we have seen that his game against spin is pretty good enough. Or you open with open, if not open, then promote somebody like a Sam Curran. You can open with a Raidu and Moeen Ali, then have Raina one down. And I would actually like Dhoni, if he's coming out to bat, he should come out to bat in the first 10, if not 10, then in the first 12 overs, because if he's going to come after the 12th over mark, the way he's played, it is not going to end up well for CSK. I saw a few comments where people said that Pujara has been brought into the side to arrest a collapse. The issue with CSK last season was that everybody was batting to arrest a collapse.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, you have, I think if you want to arrest a collapse, MS Dhoni is the best person to do that. He's going to play eventually. If there is a batting collapse happening, send him up the order. But
Yeah,
I don't think that happens a lot. The collapse happened only against MI in Sharjah last season. It didn't happen against any other team.
yeah,
Collapses don't happen that often in a T20 game anyway. Okay, and what happens is, say, even if you're three down and you are batting too conservatively, you have anyway batted yourself out of the game. Okay, on
true.
most days, unless it is a very difficult pitch to bat on, which you don't see. So and again, even though Pujara is a good player of spin, but you have to back the likes of Raina, Raidu to take on spin. You have Moeen Ali also, you have Ravindra Jadeja also. These players are good enough to take on spin. So I just thought that the Pujara buy was an unnecessary one. Really happy with the Moeen Ali and the Christopher Gautam buy. They can actually, like I said, have an 11 where all of them can bat. With Deepak Chahar, Shardul Thakur, maybe if they don't play Lungi and Giri, which but I think they would play him because they will need a death bowling option. So
True.
apart from Lungi and Giri, I think almost everyone can bat, and Shardul Thakur definitely improved as a bowler in the last season because he stopped bowling those slower balls at the death. So if you have, say, if you have Lungi Ngidi, Shardul Thakur, Deepak Chahar, Sam Curran, Christopher Gautam, Ravinder Jadeja, Moeen Ali, and then you can have whatever top four you want. So this team can actually go the distance. Just need to use the resources well, and I think in that case MS Dhoni is a master of it. He really knows how to use his resources and players well.
Yeah, as you said, definitely the two picks that CSK have made, the two main picks, they definitely are MS Dhoni's prize picks. He likes to have his options before a T20 game starts, and I think in that sense, yes, we do have certain voids covered. But at the end of the day, as you pointed out, it is necessary to back every player's ability and just play a little more freely with respect to CSK. Just one question on the CSK front. Anirudh feels that in CSK does not have a guy who can take on raw pace, and apart from maybe Dhoni, who's also at probably at the twilight of his career, and now Jadeja. Apart from those two, is there anyone who can really take on quality death bowling?
I don't think Dhoni can take on real quick pace bowling. I think over 140 it is going to be tough for him. There is Jadeja who can do that, and then there is probably Sam Curran. So this can actually cause them. This could actually be a concern, which is why I was thinking that maybe even CSK could go for a Sam Billings, or I thought that they would go for a Steven Smith or a Sam Billings, because even Moeen Ali, when if he's peppered with short bowling, he also struggles. So yes, that could be a struggle. And if they're not playing Faf in the 11, then it could all come down to Jadeja and Sam Curran only to take on real pace. Maybe even Shardul Thakur, but we've not sure how good he could be against hit the deck type of bowling. We saw in Australia that pace doesn't trouble him, bounce doesn't trouble him, but it's one thing to do it in a test match where you're required to survive and hold and hold on to one end, and then it's completely different to take on that pace bowling. So yes, that could be an issue. Anirudh's pretty accurate about it.
Yeah. So with that, we move on to the last two franchises left to review today. One of them being Mumbai Indians. Mumbai Indians again almost had a situation similar to CSK. They retained most of their core and they released some of the pace bowlers that they bought for really high prices. In the end, they bought back Nathan Coulter-Nile for 3 crores less at 5 crores, and then they went in to get one of their prodigal picks of the yesteryears, being Adam Mill. Adam Milne was there with Mumbai Indians for a couple of seasons. Then he had a lengthened injury period, and now he's back to full fitness. Had a very good BBL, and then of course they've gone in for Jimmy Neesham, and the pick that all of us thought was going to come, Arjun Tendulkar for base. So, how do you see Mumbai Indians shaping up in this particular auction?
I remember the day, the retentions and release lists came out. I saw the budget and I said, "Am I have a 15 crores?" And they would try like to go for three pacers. It will come down to how smart the other teams are in stopping them from doing it. They
True.
sort of did stop them from buying Morris, but Emma is always smart enough. I think Adam Mill is a very good buy. So is Nathan Coulter-Nine. So they had Nathan Coulter-Nine for 8 CR in the previous season. This season they've got Coulter-Nine and Milne at 8.2, which is a very good buy. Neesham is a decent backup. I don't see him playing a lot of games. Just like I don't, as long as Pollard's playing, I don't see Neesham playing. The thing with MI setup is because they have such complete players that even average players can do better because there is not a lot of expectation and pressure on them. So an Adam
True.
Milne wouldn't really need to bowl at the death if there is Jasprit Bumrah. Along with I checked his numbers in the power play. He has an economy rate of 7.995. So he's giving runs at less than 8 runs and over, but his average and strike rate isn't great. But I think with Bolt at the other end, both of them could pair actually really well, and his numbers will also improve as we saw with what happened with Bolt in the last season. So Adam Milne could really work, and if Coulter-Nine also plays, then they'll have another option who can bowl at the death with Bumrah. So I think they've got their paces covered again. Raghuveer is asking about Marco Jansen. Raghuveer, I'm not really really don't know how he goes. I think I have not seen enough of him. I think this is a call that MI will if MI has bought him and scouted him, he could actually be a good deal because we've seen how good their scouting process is. But I think they will start with Adam Milne because Shane Bond has worked with him pretty closely, and he would have given shared his feedback as to how well he's doing. So I think they will start with Adam Milne, wouldn't bowl him at death, or maybe probably bowl him for an over because how I see this going is as three for Bolt and three for one of Bolt or Adam Milne in the top six. Then by the time 12th over is done, both Milne and or one of Milne and Bolt have finished their quota. Then one of them sort of might bowl after 15th, but I think 3 overs will be reserved for Jasprit Bumrah in the last five, with one odd over or probably uh, from a Milne or from a Bolt. But that would actually come down to how they who's also batting because MI have also given an over in the death in the last five to Krunal Pandya as well if two right-handers are batting. So like I said, it will come down to who's there. But you expect MI to sort of sort it out. They're too smart a franchise as they've always shown, and a lot of titles I think they've won on the auction table. If you
That's true.
see how they've they were the ones who started with their two overseas pacers strategy in the 11. With Bumrah they had another pacer. So the reason is that uncapped Indian batsmen and a lot of Indian batsmen still struggle with pace. And
True.
a lot of teams don't have that batsman who can counter that pace. So it always helps.
Yeah, just another question on the Mumbai Indians setup. So Anirudh wants to know if they could have actually gone in for someone like Riley and maybe spent a little more bucks to get some experienced pacers, like probably maybe Morris. Of course, Morris didn't come for cheap, but could they have actually invested in an experienced pacer to fill in the shoes of maybe say a Lasit Malinga?
I think Riley might have been in their plans, but like I said before, it also comes down to the auction order and the players which are coming in. So they probably thought that they are better off in getting a Milne and I think by the time they bought Milne, they sort of realized that they may not have enough money for Riley Meredith because he went for 8 CR. So could be a
Yeah,
reason, and maybe they didn't want to take a punt on somebody who's inexperienced. Like I said, a lot of the buying of Adam Milne has been influenced or could be influenced by how Shane Bond worked with him in BBL. So I think that is more
yeah,
down to that. Uh, Could have gone for Riley. I thought that they might go for a Chemar Holder or an Alzari Joseph also, but they didn't, because Alzari Joseph has played for them and they've taken good care of him when he got injured, but they didn't. So I don't know. Could have been something up their plans. With MI, you never know.
Yeah, as you pointed out, most of the auctions are won, most of the IPL championships are won at the auction table, and MI have been pioneers of it for the last decade or so. They've just gone out and picked the best talent across India and the world, and that's why they are now a formidable unit in the IPL. So moving on to the last segment of the day, so we're going to just touch upon KKR and how they've fared in the auction table. KKR had a lot of spinner recruits. I think they bought Harbhajan at the fag end of the auction, and apart from that, they also made some quality Indian buys, and they got Shakib, as you said, for a really cheap price for the quality of Shakib Al Hasan. I think 3C is definitely a big undervalue on him. So, how do you rate KKR's position after the auction?
Two very good buys in Shakib and Cutting. I think Cutting is a very good backup for somebody like Russell. Not at his level for sure. Can hit big, but he can't bowl at the depth which Russell has. But like I said, a good backup. In Shakib, I think Shakib is a backup for somebody like Sunil Narayan, because they feel if there is another action sort of an issue, they need another spinner who can take the ball away. I didn't really understand, why they bought both Chawla and Harbhajan. Chawla's with KKR, right?
I think Chawla's with MI. MI. Chawla's with
Oh
MI.
yeah, Chawla's with MI. Sorry, but they actually went for him and they didn't get him.
Yeah, they did. They did. They did.
Yeah, so they've also bought in Karun Nair. Again, I don't understand the reasoning behind it, because they didn't really use Rahul Tripathi well in the last season. So they also have enough top order batsmen. They have Nitish Rana, they have Shubman Gill. I would actually love for them to start with Lockie Ferguson this season. Uh, they started with they had Chris Green play ahead of him. I really think that Lockie Ferguson should start. Uh, Anirudh is right, when he's saying that they have almost no chance of starting. I agree. That is why I said that they are, backups. I feel that this IPL, they may not start with Narayan. They might start with Morgan, Russell's, Cummings, and Lockie. Lockie,
Yeah.
With his pace, has been brilliant at the death. Russell can complement him. They would really need, a lot more from their uncapped Indian pacers, in Prasidh Krishna, Shivam Mavi, Nagar Koti, even Sandeep Warrior. I felt that they didn't give enough chances to Prasidh Krishna. They dropped him when he done well against Punjab in the last IPL. But overall, I think they've covered their bases. They just need to get their tactics right. Their tactics were all over the place last IPL. Sending Dinesh Karthik up the order for no reason, batting Rahul Tripathi below Pat Cummins, especially when he had a good innings against Chennai. So that would have to be seen and on how they go. I think they're well set if they open with Shubman Gill and Rahul Tripathi, with with Rana being one down, two down being Morgan, three down being Russell, and you know another Indian player. I think it could be Karun Nair, and then have Cummings and all the all rounders that they have. They last season, I think it's always good to go for batting bowling depth, but I think their batting was too short. It sort of led players batting a little conservatively. They'd like to address that. uh, I hope they sort of don't get their plans wrong like they did last time. Rahul Tripathi is good, they should use him. So is Shubman Gill and Nitish Rana. I think they can really do well with also Dinesh Karthik being there as a finisher. So they have the bases covered. Let's hope they don't mess it up.
Yeah, as you pointed out, I think definitely Shubman Gill at the start will definitely get a lot of good chances to establish himself. And at the end of the day, I think the kind of players that KKR have brought in, they'll actually find it really difficult to fit in all of them. But if they can, then I think it's definitely a management masterclass from their part. So on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this auction special review. Big thanks to Gurkirat for taking the time out, being a part of the podcast today. And as we've been saying, we'll be having a lot of content on the India England tour and the IPL 2021. So until then, please like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can follow us at the Little Fellas handle on Twitter and Instagram. You can follow Gurkirat on the at Gurkirat Gill handle as well. So stay tuned. Bye bye. We'll be back with another exciting episode.